Morning everyone, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another one of my wildlife videos. In today's video we're actually at Burnhams Mere. Now, Burnhams Mere is basically a large body of water, literally in Home Fen. Now I've got a bit of spare time today and thought I would come down here and shoot some wildlife. And then if I still got time, I'll potentially hop over the other side and do some macro photography as well. So, yeah, it was a really overcast morning this morning. Now it seems that sun's come out and it's a little bit harsh and reflecting off the water. So, doing some wildlife photography might be interesting. Now, I've been down here a little while already and taken some shots. And it got me thinking. I know I'm only just venturing into wildlife photography, but is the A7rIV actually any good for wildlife photography? We'll come back to that in one moment. Let's have a look at some of the shots that I've already taken and see if we get any more birds come around. Okay, so let's come back and talk about the A7rIV. Now, first of all, let me just say, I'm no pro. I've only been doing wildlife photography a few months and haven't been able to get out and shoot that much. Now, this video is probably going to end up appealing more to either beginner photographers or people who are potentially looking at upgrading. So, yeah, I doubt there's going to be many pros who are interested in whether the A7rIV is actually any good for wildlife photography. They'll already know. So first of all, let me just say about the A7rIV. I purchased this just over a year ago, and I purchased it for my main photography interest, which is landscape photography. However, obviously turning my hands to also doing some wildlife photography as well, it was a case of, do I need a second body? Or can I get by, succeed with the A7rIV? Now this video is probably going to be a mixture of fact and my opinion as well. So, let's come on to one of those first facts. And it's always a big one when you talk about digital cameras, and that's the megapixels. The A7rIV is packing 61 megapixels. Now, why does that matter for wildlife photography? One thing with wildlife photography is animals are very unpredictable, and you might not be able to get as close to the animal as you would like. That 61 megapixels gives you a lot of room for cropping, and cropping is quite common in wildlife photography. Obviously the pros out there are probably able to get closer to the animals. Their bushcraft is a lot better than what mine probably is. Now 61 megapixels is a lot, the files are quite large, but what I would also say as well is the crop mode on an A7rIV still yields results of 26 megapixels. Now, with the Sigma 150 to 600, at the long end, as I said it previously, that gives an effective field of view of 900mm, still with 26 megapixels. Now, that's more than some of the pro-level wildlife cameras and action photography mirrorless cameras. That's more megapixels than what some of them are actually packing at full stop. So, yeah, for that, I consider that a big win in the A7R4's ability to shoot wildlife. So I'm going to go back and take in some more pictures, and we'll come back and discuss more information about the A7R4 shortly. Okay, so I've just moved a little bit further round on Burnhams Mere, just to try and get a different selection of birds to the one that I was photographing a minute ago. The problem with down here is it's quite overgrown on the water's edge, which is great for hiding, but I don't know, visibility is absolutely fine. I just need something other than the Signet to come a little bit closer. There's quite a lot of swans down here. Anyway, let's get back to the A7R4. So, I suppose one of the big points for wildlife photography is the focus system. And to be honest with you, anyone who knows anything about the mirrorless system, especially with the Sony, they've been lauded for a number of years for birds. For their autofocus system with the eye autofocus, things like that. It's an absolute peach. Now, what I would say, this is obviously about the A7R4. I think the A7R5 also comes with bird eye AF. I could be wrong. You might want to triple check that, but also as well, you know, you're looking at paying $2,000 plus extra on top of the A7R4 for an A7R5. This does come with IAF for animal and human. So what I would say is, you're a pretty little guy. The quality of the AF system in the A7R4 is fantastic. Once you get used to it, yeah, it's an absolute peach, as I say. The A7R5 is better, but unless you have quite an open budget to buy it, I can still highly recommend the A7R4 for the AF system. Okay, so I am struggling a little bit with regards to the birds. They're keeping their distance for the moment. Other than these swans, even at the 600mm and with the crop enabled to give me a field of view of 900mm, I would still have to do an excessive amount of cropping to actually get a decent framing on these birds. Sounds like the geese disagree. Anyway, so I'm going to come back and talk about the A7R4 again. Now, one of the things that people look for in a camera for wildlife is the frames per second. Now, that in relation to other cameras is probably where the A7R4 falls down a little bit. It only, I'm going to say only, shoots at 10 frames a second on its highest shutter speed. Not shutter speed, frame rate, sorry. Now, if you compare that to some others which are more aimed at wildlife, sports, various action, things like that, it does pale in comparison to them. Is it the A7rIV that shoots at like 100 odd frames a second or something ridiculous like that with its new global shutter? Or is it the A1? I can't remember. But you know, a lot of them can shoot at sort of 30 frames a second, things like that. So 10 frames a second in comparison to that is actually quite poor. However, let's go back to the digital SLR days. In a direct comparison to something with such a large sensor, digital SLR wise, I'm looking at the Canon 5DS. That's obviously what I had before, and it was 50 odd megapixels. Now I think the frames per second on its highest setting was like 3.5 frames per second. So when you consider it in that respect, 10 frames a second is pretty damn good. Also as well, if you compare what was quite lauded as a reasonable mid-level wildlife photography camera and something like the Canon 7D Mark II, that shot at 10 frames a second. So this is actually on par with that. So you tell me, is 10 frames a second really that bad? I haven't found any issues with it. Now don't get me wrong, I might have actually got more keepers, more peach of a shot if I managed to capture 30 frames in a second as opposed to 10 frames in a second. But I'm still getting a lot more than 3.5 frames per second, so... Right, there's some birds just coming a little bit closer now, so I'm going to stop yakking to you guys and see if I can actually get any decent pictures of them. So after struggling to get any further shots from this area of Burnhams Mere, I decided to go for a wander around the lake. I came across this area that had quite a lot of chatter from small birds. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to grab any decent shots, but I did manage to grab these few. So I've just been wandering around Burnhams Mere, and I actually just found an area that I didn't know you could get to right on the water's edge. Quite clear view of the water as well. And if you can't tell, the light is actually coming from behind me down onto the water. It's not this area, I've just been there and I'm on my way back now. So yeah, I'm quite keen to come down and spend more time there. Unfortunately, I'm running out of time today because I'm getting hungry and I didn't bring any food with me. So yeah, I'm going to actually call it. I'm also not going to make a second video. I was going to do some macro photography over in Home Fen, but I've decided against it. And the reason being is that a couple of weeks ago, I actually messed up my right hand. I think I broke it. It's just the section down from my little finger. Mrs. S doesn't think I did, but I wasn't going to bother going to hospital because the last time I broke my hand about 20 years ago, they were like, yeah, we can't actually do anything for it. So, of same opinion there. Now, because it's so recent, because it's cold, and because I'm lugging around the large lens, unfortunately it is starting to ache. And I don't know how much longer I can actually stay out for before it really hurts. Also as well, my left arm, where I broke that, about 18 months ago, because it's cold and I'm carrying around that lens, it's actually starting to ache as well. So between my left arm and my right hand, I'm kind of struggling a little bit, which is a shame. And I'm hungry, as I say, so, you know, priorities. Now, I am obviously the camera's not going away. I'm going to have a slow walk back round Burnhams Mere. Definitely going to come back here, because this place is fantastic. I'm probably going to shoot quite a few videos from here, to be honest with you, because I've seen waterbirds and waterfowl that I haven't actually seen anywhere else in my local areas and stuff. I'm not saying they're rare or anything, but it's nice to actually have some differences. And I think I'm just going to come down here one day and just park my backside over in that spot and, yeah, just wait for the opportunities to come around. But before I sign out as well, I'm going to just touch on the A7R4 again for wildlife photography. Now, the question that I asked earlier was, is it any good for wildlife photography? And in my opinion, yes, it is. What I will say is the large amounts of megapixels still, when using the crop mode as well, 61 and 26 is absolutely phenomenal and brilliant for wildlife photography. The frame rate, I think, is adequate. The focus system is fantastic. There's quite other number of reasons as well that the pros would probably be able to tell you about. And I also know that there are some pros who do use an A7R4 or A7R5 for wildlife photography. So realistically, what I have got here is not only my perfect landscape photography camera, I've also got a damn good wildlife camera all rolled into one. I said it before in one of my videos that I made when I was in Wales with Mrs. S. I really regret not switching over to Sony sooner. But c'est la vie. Now, I'd love an A7R5, don't get me wrong. I think with the improved autofocus on there, along with the animal eye tracking, bird tracking, things like that, if it is right, I swear it's on there, then yeah, that'd be grand. But do you know what? I can't ever see me needing to upgrade the A7R4 unless something magical happens. So yeah, I would definitely, if you're considering upgrading your camera, I would definitely look at the Sony A7R4. Also as well, if you're moving from a Canon EF system as well, obviously there's mount adapters that are available by the barrel load. So you could actually still use your Canon lenses on the Sony camera. So it's not a case of if you switch brands, you have to upgrade everything to start with. You can just upgrade the body and continue to use those lenses. Obviously, using designated mirrorless lenses is a better option. But other than my 150 to 600, all my Sigma lenses are still the Canon EF versions. And I am more than over the moon with the results of them. I will at some point slowly change over to designated FE lenses, but for now I'm more than happy using the EF lenses. With obviously, because I use Sigma, I have the Sigma MC11 mount adapter. So yeah, if you've got something like a Canon EF 100 to 400 or 70 to 200 that you use for wildlife, things like that, you obviously get yourself a mount adapter. As I say, I've got the Mica one which has the drop-in filters. I know they do one without, which is cheaper. So yeah, you definitely have that option there. So yeah, I'm going to sign out now anyway, before I just keep rambling at you guys. So obviously, if you've liked this video, another one of my wildlife photography videos, give us the old thumbs up. Drop some subscribes from wherever they are down the bottom. So you can keep up to date with my landscape photography, my wildlife photography. And obviously, yeah, you know, I'm trying to really build up my YouTube channel. So any subscribes is greatly appreciated. And yeah, this is my account. Take care and be safe, everyone. Peace.